Hello, everybody. Welcome to Ask James. For the benefit of the audio, I am one half of the Planet FPL podcast, and you are listening to my live Ask James stream, which I do every Friday afternoon on YouTube. There is essentially no script, so it's up to the people to get into the comments on YouTube, and we will discuss a little bit of football. Essentially, anything goes. So just while I'm waiting for some people to join in on the chat, just a few things to cover off. Obviously, firstly, what our content was this week. So we did our main podcast on Monday night, which focused very much on the latest goings on in football. We also answered a ton of Twitter questions based on a number of random stuff. We'll probably get more of that in here now. And we also did a feature on the Champman FPL game. What we'll regularly be doing with that is, because I don't really want to spam people who are not playing the game, is on Monday night podcast going forward, we will finish our podcast based on the discussion on the Champman FPL game. So if you don't want to listen to the other nonsense shit that goes on in our podcast, you can probably skip towards the final 20 minutes where we'll cover that off. On Tuesday, we did a people's poll based on what would be the makeup of a 20-team European Super League. People who know me know I can't think of anything worse to happen to football. But do you know what? In the current climate, there's going to be some greed, and there's going to be some people around Europe who are going to be looking for it. I would suggest probably particularly clubs in Italy and perhaps France. It's a really interesting discussion on a number of clubs, their current financial status in that podcast. Some clubs like AC Milan seem to be well off at the moment, but believe on historical performances deserve a place at Europe's top table, guaranteed every season. On Wednesday, we did a quiz on the 2018 World Cup. Shout out to Joe Finley Badder, who's normally a regular in my YouTube streams. He's got 26 out of 30. That's the highest score I've seen so far. Seen a couple of other 25s knocking about. 26 out of 30 is the score to beat. It's quite a recent one, so probably more beneficial for some of the younger people. Yesterday, we did a podcast on Alan Sugar's period of Spurs chairman in 1990s, running from 1991 to 2000, which some of it was hysterical, looking back at some of the complete clusterfucks at Tottenham during the 90s. And obviously, as a Spurs fan, it's something I enjoyed digging into. It's only about 35 minutes long, so I've condensed basically the story of Spurs in the 90s into around about half hour. Obviously doing this now, the Champman FPL live stream Wednesday night, as we'll continue doing while everything's good and I'm healthy, and we'll be doing the same from 2:30 every Saturday as well. Right, let's get into the chat. I'll probably near the end reveal what we're doing content-wise next week as well. I see our first man in the chat. He's our friend Steve-O from Elite FPL. Says, hey, James, can listen when driving home, so ideal timing. You excited for your 24-hour stream, and how can we donate? Oh, well, let's announce some more Planet FPL content. For those of you who might have missed Monday night's pod or the Twitter announcement or Wednesday night's stream, which I discussed it at half-time of the Champman FPL game. Yes, on Saturday, May the 23rd, Suj and I have decided, because we're sheer fucking bonkers, that we're going to do a 24-hour live stream here on the Planet FPL YouTube channel. The centerpiece will be the Champman FPL game week 16 at 2:30, but we will run from 6 a.m. on the Saturday morning to 6 a.m. on the Sunday morning, uninterrupted, 24 hours live. We've got loads of guests planned, loads of different ideas of things that we want to do. That's already all coming together. On the subject of donating, Steve-O, I know a lot of people, perhaps to my surprise, have already said, how quickly can we donate? Because we are looking to raise money for the NHS, which obviously everybody in the UK is very passionate about supporting at the moment. And that's me and Suj offering to do our small little slice of the pie, basically. So, yes, we are working on a site to get that up and running so people can obviously make their commitments early. But stay tuned, and obviously I'll communicate how and when that's going to be up and going. Bilal Qureshi is in the chat. Says, hi, Steve-O, and to James. Hello, mate. He has a question. What are your thoughts on Sergio Aguero's comments on a return to football situation? Do you think it will require more people to come out with this opinion or for football to be postponed post-June? I have to say, Bilal, I've not seen the Aguero comments. I've got to be very honest. I've not seen them. So if you can give me a little update on that, I'd really appreciate it. But what I can say, my current opinion is the following, and current opinions, it's worth saying, can change. I see a lot of people getting abused for the fact that they gave an opinion in March and it's now May and their opinion is a little bit different. People are entitled to change their minds. I think complete contradictions a little bit different, but it's a revolving situation. Therefore, I think opinions can change. My current opinion on the restart of football is the following. If it's not safe to have fans there, I don't believe it's possible for it to be safe to have players there. And therefore, I think, much to everybody's disappointment, I can't really see how this restart's going to work. Now, there's a Premier League meeting ongoing right now while I talk to you, a conference call which includes the 20 Premier League clubs. I would suggest that if just one of those 20 clubs feels uncomfortable about a restart, then this football season will be voided in some sort of capacity. Whether that means Liverpool get the title, like PSG have been awarded in France, I obviously don't know. I would anticipate that would be the circumstance. What I don't foresee is, and we spoke about this on Monday night's podcast, is let's say we try. There's, what is it? How many tests was it? They said they need 66,000 tests or something to finish the football season. Why should that? I mean, there are other people that need that right now more than footballers, right? That needs to be on the front line of helping save people's lives, not restarting football. As much as selfishly, we obviously all want football to return as soon as possible. And the flip of that is, like, we've all done it where we've gone, look at the salaries that players get, etc. And, you know, if I was on that money, I'd do X, Y, Z. There are going to be some footballers that are really uncomfortable with this. Imagine a footballer. We've just seen Gini Wijnaldum yesterday. He's announced on Twitter that he's had a child. You want to take Gini Wijnaldum away from his newborn child for 6 weeks or so to put him in quarantine to play football? Because I tell you what, I know if it was me, I wouldn't be comfortable with that. So we have to remember at times like this that footballers are human beings. And I just don't see how it can work. If we restart one case and it's done, it's obliterated. I think it's optimistic. My personal opinion is that restarting next football season in August is optimistic. Never mind playing football in June. I think if the government gives it the green light next Thursday, I believe it is the government meeting on the 7th. If the government gives it the green light, football will happen. Football will happen because of money. Not necessarily, it's all getting reputed to greed. I don't think it's all necessarily greed. For a lot of football clubs, playing football and being able to use, small things like advertising hoardings for sponsorship and stuff, if games are going to be transmitted on TV, is going to be particularly helpful. I'm not sure where it actually benefits lower league clubs at all. They're not going to get the exposure of the sponsorship through TV other than the odd highlights packages. Are these games even going to be able to be shown as highlight packages in lower leagues? The EFL is normally on Quest, isn't it? Obviously, Sky have coverage as well. Are they even going to be able to send cameras to these places? Bearing in mind the priority from a coverage perspective is naturally obviously going to be the Premier League. So when I suggested to someone on Twitter earlier in the week that we should just basically shut the fuck up and come back and play football and finish this current season next February or March, when we're all in a position where, touch wood, hopefully we might have a vaccine by then, etc. Obviously, lower league clubs will die between now and then. Yes, I'm absolutely well aware of that. But I don't actually foresee how, for these clubs continuing to hold people on contracts and play behind closed doors, how they're still going to be able to remain as viable businesses, essentially. No matter what happens with this football situation, there are going to be winners and losers, and there is going to be no way of making A, everybody happy, and B, keeping every football club going. Now is the time for us to look at this realistically and understand, really unfortunately, that some football clubs are going to cease to exist here. I think that's a reality. I don't see even football restarting in June fixing that, because the word on the street is, like, you forget football attending fans attending football matches until June. Now, if that's the case, how are many of these lower league clubs going to survive anyway, even with football, if they've got to retain players on contracts? I'm sure many of you will have seen, particularly on Twitter, although it's not being reported widely through the media, the comments from the Bristol Rovers player, who's their representative for the players, following their meeting with the PFA, where there's a suggestion, and this is dark, so that for players who are out of contract in June, essentially, if they don't play beyond June, they get a severance payment. If they continue to play in July, they don't get paid. There's no extra money, and they also lose that severance pay. So we're going to ask these guys to go away from their families from X amount of time and play football for free. Is that correct? It's the whole situation is fucked. I understand that the majority opinion, let's play football, let's try and make it safe in stadiums. I don't see how we can. If it's not safe for me to go to football, how is it safe for player X to go and play where he's got to have physical contact with his opponents? Football is a contact sport. It's not like you're playing tennis at the opposite end of a tennis court from someone. That kind of thing's a lot easier to manage, really. Even when they change ends, you could walk around opposite sides of the net, couldn't you? You could have the umpire sits back in the stand, whatever. Football's not like that. So I think we're taking risks, and I think we're taking risks to secure the future of football clubs, which I understand, but we've got to find other ways. I think, like Gary Neville's made this comment this morning about taking the Premier League to a kind of a virus-free zone and finishing the football season there. I go back to my comments and say, Wijnaldum, why would he want to do that? Giorgio Wijnaldum's team is going to finish top of the league, whether it restarts or not. And I'm pretty sure that Liverpool will get awarded the title, by the way, no matter what happens. Why would he go and risk himself and then his family to do that? Why? There's nothing in it for him. He doesn't need the money. He's a different case to people in the lower leagues who'll be desperate. Think of many of those footballers in lower league football as well, who, for many of them, their football careers ended now. Genuinely, they're not going to get other clubs. So, lower league clubs are going to have smaller squads. They're going to rely more on younger players when football restarts. There are footballers now who are aged mid-20s are not going to play professional football again. But you want them same players to potentially play for free in July. No, these guys need to think about making new careers for themselves, learning new skills, etc. No matter what we do, not everybody can win. No way at all, unfortunately. God, that was pretty deep, wasn't it? Brad Lewin's in the chat, says hello. Cole Norbury's in the chat, says hello. Hello, guys. Shano83 is in from Australia. How are you? He says, I'm good, mate. Hope you're well. Bilal says, did you resolve that 25-man squad challenge issue with Hippier and Pookie? That was so funny when you realised you'd messed up. Haha. Well, Bilal, I'm going to suggest you probably didn't listen to the final minute of that podcast because I added a little bit of personal audio where I did make some changes. But yes, it was Planet FPL Gold and a little bit of history in the fact that there was an edited audio on the end of it. Brad Lundin says, what do you think of the idea of a third European competition for the mid-table teams of the league? Would be great for some fans to watch their team around Europe when they wouldn't normally be able to. I think it's awful, Brad. There is going to be a third European competition, which we know of, which is going to be the Europa League 2. I don't think it's got a formal name yet. I heard someone calling it the Europa League Conference in some media outlet earlier this week. I'm not sure if that's due to start in 21 or 22. I'm not sure. It could be completely curtailed now. I've no idea. But basically, one team, I think it's whoever the 8th team. So England gets, say, 7 spots at the moment, 4 for the Champions League, 3 for the Europa League. There'll be an additional place for this Europa League 2. Kickoff times will be around about 3:45 p.m. every Thursday. Yeah, right. So most people are going to work anyway. The state of it, it's a competition designed essentially to give a prolonged European campaigns. Shit. Nearly just lost everything there. To give a lot of the Eastern European clubs prolonged European campaigns. Well, this isn't going to go well, is it? Just fucking losing my audio support to my left here, but I realised in time. Yeah, it's a nonsense. It's a nonsense. Currently, right now, I think it's Spurs that would enter that. Imagine that. Spurs playing for some team from, with respect, from Moldova at 3:45 p.m. on a Thursday afternoon. Stop it, please. No one needs this. You can make plenty of arguments. It's too much football. I understand. You take for the likes of Sheffield United, etc., and Wolves, obviously, this season. Yeah, of course, they're delighted to be in the Europa League. And if they went in that, they'd probably be delighted to be in that. We've seen plenty of clubs going to Europe and feel like they not want to be in it, like Burnley, for example. So, I mean, the big six are not going to want to go into that Europa League 2 competition. Just get treated like youth teams would go into it and that. So, no, I'm not a fan. As I've said several times over, I think you will see an expanded Champions League eventually, where could even be the 6 teams going from England, for example. I think that's the more likely to curb this fear of European Super League. Andrew Martin, our chat man, FPL Heroes in the chat. Hello, Andy. How you doing? Shano83 says, feel for Liverpool if it doesn't restart. I think Shano, they'll get the title anyway. The Premier League won't make their decisions based on what's happened in France, but the fact that Paris Saint-Germain have been awarded it, I think, you know, if Liverpool then want to go down their own legal route to get awarded the title, then they would. Anybody who doesn't think Liverpool deserve to win the Premier League is just a bit bitter or hates Liverpool. So they should get the title for sure. Andy Martin saying, surely the whole football pyramid needs to agree and not just the Premier League. I don't disagree with that comment, Andy. The only thing I'd say with that is, even if you take, say, League One, for example, you've got sides in there like Sunderland, who obviously have a big support. They're in massive financial trouble, but their capabilities in terms of their turnover are far higher than other clubs who are averaging 5,000 in that division, for example. So I don't even think you can have an agreement within that league, for example. Premier League, because of the TV sponsorship money, etc., you probably can have a blanket agreement. But then the further down you go, there's more disparity actually in terms of what people's finances are, even at the same level. So yes, in terms of, say, wage deferrals, restart, yes, you would like to see a blanket agreement, Andy, but I'm not sure it's going to work. I know I come off really negative, and I have done for quite a while about this restart, but it's how I feel. I see us restarting this season, making next season an even bigger problem, if that's what it comes to. I generally think we could even restart and still not finish. I think that's a possibility. Perhaps if we restart in June, and then that's when, say, lockdown ends, and then we get this second big wave of infections, then what? I just, as much as we want football, I'm afraid to say I'm happy sitting in my room playing Champman FPL and having some light relief through that. I think we need to think of players, officials, staff, etc. I think we're forcing it because of financial implications, be it A, greed, and B, necessity to save football clubs. And nobody wants to see a football club die. Like, that's horrendous. The whole Berry thing last year actually genuinely upset me. I think that's why we ended up doing such a really good podcast on it. Like, if I felt it's a football club I'd never even seen Tottenham play, but that shouldn't happen. There's no way a community should lose its football club. And I hope, as partly has been seen through the government already, that offers of support will be put out this time. Berry's case was very different because it was an individual circumstance of neglect. Where football clubs are at risk now is nobody's fault. It's nobody's fault. And hopefully the help will continue to be there. Shana says, sports will be returning soon here in Oz, in hubs with strict testing and guidelines. We have flattened curve considerably here. Is it on its way down slowly in England? Yes, it is at the moment, Shano, but everyone's still on lockdown, generally speaking, unless for necessities to go out. So, you know, we released the lockdown. The curve's going to go back up. That's going to be the second wave whenever that happens. It's important that it's staggered very slowly, I think, in terms of who goes back to work, where, when. But, you know, I mean, as a Londoner myself, fortunately, I don't have to use the tube, for example, to get into work. But, I mean, fuck that. What a nightmare. So, yeah, for football is bleak, man. And you can say, yeah, testing, etc. What I said, the leak from that Bristol Rovers WhatsApp chat yesterday was about 66,000 tests. We don't even know if that was just for the EFL. Does that include the Premier League? It's a huge number of tests. Have we even done that many tests in the country so far? I don't even know the answer to that. So I don't know how you can justify putting all that resource into restarting football when we've got people dying and so many of these footballers they're safe at the moment. They're at an age profile where they should be safe, but it also doesn't mean we should be putting them at risk. And I think we need to consider that. Paul Coleman's in the chat, says hello. Bilal says WWE should void the season if we can't finish by September, October time. Well, WWE is a whole different conversation because they're still going, aren't they? Incredibly. I mean, you talk about contact sports. I mean, it's just absurd. For the WWE fans out there, like, yeah, what is Vince McMahon doing? Oh my Lord. Just stop it. Just stop it and come back when it restarts. That does feel more like greed. I presume you meant we rather than WWE. Yeah, but I think if we get to September, October time, we're not playing football, rather than making the announcement to void the season now, at that point, if we're ready to restart in November or so, you ain't going to finish next season in 4 or 5 months. So why don't we just finish this one? That's how I feel. I feel the best thing to do right now would be just to suspend it and say, we will decide once we know at a time frame that football is restarting, how we will resolve if we're having title winners, promotion, relegation, any of those kind of things. I mean, for anybody to get relegated at the moment would be drastically unfair. But that's what's been determined in France. We know that Toulouse are already putting together their proposals in terms of how to appeal. They've been relegated from Ligue 1 with 10 games to play. You know, if that's Bournemouth or Villa or Norwich, it's not right. That's different to awarding Liverpool the title. Very, very different, and different to PSG being awarded the title as well. They had a 12-point lead with a game in hand. So, you know they're going to win it. It's a one-team fucking league anyway. Bill Badger, Mark, my Norwich correspondents in the chat, says one thing that's pissed me off is some of the training grounds reopening whilst we're all locked up. Players travelling at times amount of miles into training. They're being forced, aren't they, Mark? They're being forced. I'm sure there's a mix at the moment between, yes, obviously, so many players will want to come back and play football. Of course they will. We know for some people, like, sorry to use Harry Kane as an example, but he lives and breathes the sport, right? He will be desperate to play football. But take the example of Wijnaldum. He must be looking at it going, I don't know about this. And that's all it's going to take is one club to say, do you know what? Our players don't feel comfortable with this. And that's it. Forget it. You can put every single plan in place that you like. If Burnley Football Club, for example, say our players don't want to play football, that's it. Football ain't happening. You can't restart with the 19 teams, can you? So, sorry, excuse me. Andy Mike says some decent matchups this weekend, chat man. Arsenal v Leeds, Chelsea v Liverpool, and time with Derby to name 3. What game do you think produces the most goals? I would go for Middlesbrough v Tottenham, Andrew. I think could well be the high scorer. Could well be. Bilal says if Liverpool awarded the title, then teams have to be relegated to balance it out, which isn't fair as the relegation battle is close and Villa haven't played. So no, I don't think that's the case. And one of the things that's massively being talked about, yes, you could award Liverpool the title. The rumour yesterday was that 3 teams could be promoted. I don't quite see that somehow because then you end up with an imbalance of odd teams per league. And that would presumably mean 6 teams being relegated from the Premier League next year rather than 5 if it was 2 promoted. I think an even number makes more sense. So 2 or 4 up would make more sense than 3. Obviously, lower down the pyramid, if you had League 1 and League 2 both had 3 go up, for example, then you stay even. But the Premier League would obviously then be balanced at an odd number, wouldn't it? Plenty going on in this chat now. I'll start going through these a little bit quicker because you know me, I like to rabbit on. Andy says sports like snooker and tennis could easily come back soon. Can't see football anytime soon. Yeah, snooker's probably a little bit more difficult than tennis, actually, Andy, because of it's just close proximity, a little bit more confined, isn't it? But I know what you're saying. There's no contact, and obviously in America they're fighting to get the NBA restarted and stuff like that. It's tough, man, tough. And this nonsense about players wearing face masks in training. You try and do an 80-meter sprint in a face mask and stuff. What is this? You're able to go to training and put on face masks playing football. It's not right. You shouldn't be there. FPL Badger. Also, Andrew, should we be in line with the rest of Europe with this as well as UK football pyramid? Going to be very dependent on, I think, next Thursday. Mark, we'll obviously find out a little later today from the Premier League if there's any announcements. I suspect we won't find anything definitive out, and a lot's going to rest on that government meeting next Thursday. Alex Turner, we often hear about football insurance for players. How on earth would they get insurance for a player becoming hospitalised or worse of contracting the virus? It's a very good point, Alex, and I haven't got a good answer to that. I haven't got a good answer. How do you insure someone against the virus when you're willingly putting them at risk? So let's say, heaven forbid, player X, whose value is £80 million, and he dies from the pandemic. Do football clubs currently insure their footballers against pandemic viruses? We know certainly when they're all insured. So when players travel abroad to Europe, etc., they'll all be insured, etc. I don't know if you can insure against this. I wouldn't. Such would know that better than me. I wouldn't know the ins and outs. Bilal, tennis still involves ball boys and other staff. It's very true, Bilal, but you'd have to live without the ball boys, wouldn't you? It's as simple as that. You'd have to live without them and have to go and get the ball themselves. That's it. You could have one person in each stand, maybe, if the ball went into. How often does a tennis ball go into the crowd? Shane083, I don't think will be any relegation or promotion, Bilal. It's what I've said. Amber Redmond, hello, Amber. Thank you for looking at this from a perspective that's more broad than just the top flight. I will, Amber. I'm a football fan. I'm a Spurs fan first, and then I'm a football fan second. And, you know, like talking about the European Super League, we can't have that elitist level of opinion. There is life beyond the Premier League. So many of my correspondents, like Mark, FPL Badger in the chat, has been in the Championship, been in League One. You know, these clubs all come from somewhere. I've all started from somewhere. The football pyramid in this country is integral. I realised that in 95% of the other leagues around the world, Divisions 2 and regional divisions and all that shit doesn't matter. In this country, it's almost institutionalized the importance of the football pyramid on the English football fan through, you know, FA Cup memories and stuff like that, and having sides come into the league like Rob Picks, Barnsley and stuff, and having their fairy tale stories. So no, these clubs are all part of the fabric of English football. It's not like France in a fucking one-team league at the moment. There are 92 football clubs in the English Football League, and there are plenty more lower down that who many of us in England will have gone and watched. You know, I've gone to Barnet, gone to Enfield Town and the likes, Leyton Orient. So it's in the fabric of the English support, I think. FPL Badger says, shame for Brentford who won't get to see them again at Griffin Park. Brentford are due to move into a new stadium. I don't know, Mark, if they're actually able to complete the rebuilding of that new stadium at the moment. Well, I mean, yeah, if someone had said to me, you can't say goodbye to White Hart Lane, that would be like the worst thing ever. Leaving there was still the worst thing of my football experience, basically, although it was quite joyous in the end as well. Alex says, James, do you actually have a tattoo of Jessica Alba on your ass? Yes, of course I do. Yeah, I made that comment on something very recently about something was in reference to tattoos. I can't remember if it's on the stream or one of the podcasts. No way, obviously. I don't have any tattoos, actually. Heavy Finger 7, cheers, James. Joining late, but looking forward to discussion. No problem. Paul Coleman, lol. Alex. Tim Shannon, what do you think of John Barnes' idea to eventually play out the league and then next season have 2 matches a week, but no League Cup or FA Cup for one season, allowing a break as well? God, I miss fantasy. Tim, as I said on this stream last week, I don't miss fantasy. Sorry to plague that on everyone who knows we're an FPL account and that, but I'm really not missing it. There's been some reports today that the League Cup will go. This is something I suggested a month or so ago, that if we end up having to restart, finish this season in August or September, for example, and restart next season in October or November, then no domestic cup competitions, and the English clubs should potentially be brave enough to say we're not entering UEFA competition next season as well, because the priority should be what's happening here in this country. We have to get our own status right before we worry about playing next season in European competitions and that. We've got to get back on football's got to get back on a curve, right? And a curve of just going as it is on its flat line in the direction, the calendar it's intended to go to. Something will have to give. There's no doubt about that. And one of the things me and Suj spoke about was the idea that from a money perspective, yes, it's the domestic cups will go first. That's why I fear as well that no English club would have the cojones to say, we're not going in European competition next year, because too much money involved for clubs. Look at what Spurs made, near enough 100 million from getting to the Champions League final last year. It's an astonishing amount of money. One football season's work paid for a tenth of that brand new football stadium, basically. So money and football. It was always going to come to this at some point. My man, FPL captain, star of graphics on the chat, man, FPL streams, is in the chat. Hello, mate. Joe Finley Badder, who I believe, as I said, was our top scorer from our quiz on Wednesday so far. What is the most random stadium you've watched a football match in? Mine's probably Cairo International Stadium in Egypt, to watch Egypt versus Uganda for the AFCON in 2019. That's nice. I can't top that. I can't get anywhere near it. I'm tempted to say the most random stadium I've been to is Tannadice, Dundee United. And the reason I say that is we had, as a family, we had friends in Aberdeen in the north of Scotland. And I was friends with this kid from school. So I used to go up there for like a week. I've been up there 4 or 5 times or so. I might be exaggerating that. Anyway, certainly a few times. One year we went up as a family, and me and Dad are sitting there in the living room at this house of this family on the Saturday, and it's the week before the Premier League is due to start. It's 1993. It's about 11 o'clock in the morning, and Dad's like, I wonder how long it takes to get to Dundee. So we end up going on a train from Aberdeen to Dundee and sit in the away end and support Aberdeen at Dundee United. So I think that's probably the most random one I can probably tell you. And Tannadice, very famously, is a stone's throw from Dens Park, home of Dundee. Is literally across the road. Those two stadiums makes Anfield and Goodison Park look like they're in different countries. Heavy Finger 7, how would you solve denying promotion to teams like Leeds or West Brom, which could push them to difficult finances? Thing is, like what I said, there's no way of there being a positive solution for everybody. I suspect Leeds and West Brom probably will get their promotion. Is it right? I don't even know. But there's going to be financial. Someone's going to appeal this. Whatever happens, someone somewhere is going to have financial difficulties. You could make the case with Leeds and West Brom that they haven't earned the right yet to be in the Premier League, and they wouldn't be the first clubs to be in that position in mid-March and fall arse over tier. I think Derby County, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I think were in the top 2 around about that time and didn't even finish in the top 6. They missed out on a playoff place on the final day of the season. So they haven't actually earned that right yet. And that's part of the problem with people go back saying, well, you can't award Liverpool the title yet. It's a little bit different. I think if Leeds or West Brom were 25 points clear, we could say it's in the bag. They're going to do it. So that someone somewhere is going to have financial difficulties because the decision of not making promotion or relegation. You know, if you say, okay, yeah, Leeds and West Brom, then what about the others pushing like Fulham and Nottingham Forest? Do they then have a case? There's no rights and wrongs, to use the horrible word. This is unfortunately unprecedented. Brad Lewandon says, Glenn Murray has already said him and the Brighton squad don't want the restart at the moment. He said it's ludicrous and all the players are worried for the health of them and their families. I don't need to add to that comment because that's completely understandable. I've not seen those comments from Glenn Murray, but if he has said, I'm kind of pleased. Someone needs to be brave enough and say, no, this is from a footballer's perspective. Someone needs to be brave enough, I think, and say, nah, not right. Amber Redmond says, in summary, it's all fut. Yes, I'm sorry, Amber, it is. Elite FPL, Steve-O. With the success of Champman FPL and your brilliant streams adding to the drama, would you like to continue year on year in 02, 03, and so on? I don't know. Plus, from the perspective of the game makers, it's up to them. It's their game. B, I can't guarantee that I'll still be streaming come the end of this season, never mind if it was to happen again in the next season. So it's all well at now, I think, saying, yep, the interest would definitely be there for further seasons, and there would, certainly under the current climate. But I think, the game's due to run to August. If football restarts in July, and then you've got a lot of people who will go back to the original FPL, they'll have bad ranks in Champman. FPL may not be playing anymore. Because of Spurs and my other commitments to the other podcasts, may not be able to do the streams anymore. So it's a long, long way off. Let's see what happens with football's restart. Andy particularly knows if he wants my advice on anything, he can jump in my DMs anytime. I'm just enjoying it as it is at the moment. If we weren't to play football till next March, for example, then yes, I'd love them to crack on and say, restart the 02-03 season and just crack on as it is, and we'll run another year of it. Yes. Tariq Hamed, your thoughts on Dele Alli's statement that Spurs v Chelsea is bigger than North London derby? I think he's been missing a lot of statements. I think Tariq's just he's trying to wind up both sets of fans there. One, he always seems to score against Chelsea, and two, he's obviously just trying to wind up Gooners there. Tariq, probably because Chelsea are obviously higher placed in the league than Arsenal at the moment, and that's the team that Tottenham will be aiming to catch should football restart, not Arsenal. So, I mean, that's incorrect, isn't it? It's a nonsense. There's no game bigger to Spurs than playing Arsenal. Amber says, how easy would it be for you to intervene and stop such kids being West Ham fans? I would never do that to someone else, Amber. I'm sure the kids will realise how shit they are and come to their own decision and probably support somewhere else. But they do adore their father, in fairness, so they probably will follow him. And obviously he does already take them to West Ham and stuff. Bilal says, why was or when was the League Cup introduced? League Cup was introduced in the early to mid-60s. It was as a second cup competition that was designed just for football league clubs. I don't think everybody entered it the first few years, but then it gained in popularity. I think the fact that the finals were then held at Wembley had a massive impact on that. And it's just become part of the fabric of English football. However, the necessity for it has lessened and lessened. And you're actually at a situation now where, unless you've got a squad like Manchester City, you're probably not going to win it unless you have good draws and get lucky. So, City will breeze through it, and it depend on their semi-draw. They'll decide if they're picking a strong team or not, and then they'll listen. Man City could pick any 11; it'll be strong, right? So that's why they keep winning it year on year. I don't particularly see that changing too much. You need to get them out early. You need to get City out early, and then the other clubs might feel like they've got more of a chance. So Liverpool, for example, have never taken the cups particularly seriously under Jurgen Klopp, so their performances don't come as too much of a surprise. While you're on that, Bilal, I might say in terms of content next week, my quiz on Wednesday will be based on the history of the League Cup. So join in for that one. Thursday throwback, I will say, it's going to be somewhat virus related. Don't panic. But I'm going to look at the periods when Middlesbrough got relegated and got to 2 cup finals, including the League and FA Cup final in 1997. They had an astonishing football season and effectively got relegated because of a virus that went around the team, and they couldn't fulfil a fixture at Blackburn Rovers and were deducted points. That was essentially what led to them getting relegated. So yeah, Middlesbrough, 96-97, I think would be a really interesting Thursday throwback. For Tuesday's People's Poll, I'll put the vote out on Sunday, but it's going to be focused on some financial issues in football. I can certainly say Olympiacos and the match fixing scandal in Greece will go back in. Charlton Athletic will definitely go into that poll as well, because there's a really interesting story happening there at the Valley. Probably Derby County, and there'll be one more as well. So it will be some sort of finance in football related. That vote will go out lunchtime on Sunday. Bilal says the League Cup's so relevant like the Community Shield. Not quite. Plus, Bilal Jose Mourinho would count the Community Shield as a trophy, probably, wouldn't he? Danny Cunningham, are Paolo and Ledley okay? Have they got masks on? No, Danny. I presume that they are sitting in the studio, in the workplace, and no, they will not have masks on at the moment. But we very much look forward to seeing Ledley and Paolo again soon. FPO Andy, to be fair, Delhi said for fans the North London derby is bigger, but the players see Chelsea as bigger rivals, as higher in the league, as you said, and due to recent games such as Battle of the Bridge. Well, the players need to change their fucking mindset on that. It's just a dig at Arsenal. That's all it is. That's all it is. Heavy Finger 7 says, scenario. You are a footballer with an expiring contract on June 30, asked to play every 3 days in June to close the season. What do you say to the club considering the injury risk? I mean, injury risk is an injury risk. That wouldn't be a problem. As a footballer, if you ask me to play every 3 days, it's fine. That's pretty commonplace in any case. So, yeah, no, I wouldn't. The injury would be furthest from my fault, so I wouldn't have any concerns about that. Paul Coleman says, James, have you heard the new Oasis song? I haven't. Don't even know if you like them. Yes, yeah, I like a bit of Oasis. No, I haven't heard the new song, to be honest. Is anybody releasing new music? I wouldn't have a clue. I'm so far removed from that sort of thing. Colin Axon's in the chat. Afternoon, James. First time joining on a Friday. Nice to just listen to general football crack. Thank you, Colin. And thank you, Colin, as well, for your assistance in some of the fan chants that people may have heard on some of the Chatman FPL streams. I appreciate the ones that you offered to me there. I took some of them, mate. I'm going to tell you which ones I didn't. But really appreciate your time on that, Colin. Thank you very much. I hope you're enjoying Sunderland till I die. Gosh. And no, I haven't seen any of it. You can tune into Who Got the Assist if you want the podcast on that. FPO Andy, I agree. Arsenal should always be the bigger game, but it is. Bilal, who's your top 3 favourite Spurs players, but now or of all time, Bilal? Now I would be Kane, Son. Oh, it's brutal at the moment, man. It's brutal. Probably I got the affinity with Harry Winks because he's come through the academy as well. All time, Ledley, 100%. Then probably Harry, Kane. Oh, third. I did have this question recently. I attempted to say Stephen Carr. I loved him. I loved Stephen Carr in the late 90s and the early noughties. Suffered with injuries. Then the club treated him badly and he left. I attempted to say Stephen Carr, actually. Not the best players I've seen, but probably if you're picking, favourites at times. Yeah, it's Stephen Carr. Others I loved, obviously, when, Klinsmann, Ginola, Berbatov at various stages. There's obviously been plenty others as well. I'd go with him. FPL Captain says, how's the 24-hour stream shaping up? Chris, get in my DMs, mate. We need to talk. It's going to go well. I'm convinced. It's the surviving through. It's the hardest thing. It will be planned brilliantly. That I'm convinced of. I've got some ideas of things that I want to do in the mornings, where we'll probably have less guests on. There's lots of ideas, and we're going to communicate them as and when. You will know the full schedule for the whole day. So I know some mad people out there who are like, yeah, I'm going to tune in for the whole 24 hours. Listen, you're not. It's ridiculous. So you can pick and choose your bits that you want to and don't want to watch, etc. Cole Norbury, who do you think was Pochettino's best signing for Spurs? That's a brilliant question, Carl. Brilliant question. I would say Toby Alderweireld, I think. Absolutely outstanding when he came in. That first season was impeccable. He pulled Arnautovic back and gave away a penalty, which cost us 3 points in his second game, his first home game with Tottenham. And he actually said afterwards, he said, "I'll never make a mistake like that again." And he hasn't. I've never seen him pull a player's shirt since. Absolutely thoughtless. Then suffered the nerve injury in his knee in 16-17. But when he did come back and play in the second half of that season, was brilliant again. So good. Comfortably adaptable if you can play in a back four or a back three. A leader. Just solid. He can play. Very rarely gets caught out positionally, although he's starting to get a little bit more conscious and going a bit deeper because the legs are going a bit. But Toby Alderweireld will probably be Pochettino's best signing. Also bought Son, is worth saying. So I suppose Sonny would come second there. But I think it was, for the club to progress to a certain level, it was really important we had better defensive stability. And Jan Vertonghen must have thought it was Christmas because he just played with fucking clowns for the previous 3 or 4 years. So for Jan to have Toby, improved Jan no end as well. Stuart Bell says, "Nice one, James. Remember being at the cup final chanting 3 points for 20 minutes when I was a kid. In the same season we had that year." Is that in relation to Middlesbrough, Stuart? Apologies if I'm cocking up there. It could be. I think that's what you're referring to. Colin Atkinson, Henry versus Kane. Who do you choose, taking away your Spurs alliance if possible? Oh, Henry all day. I'm not going to fucking bullshit anybody. Henry was a sensational footballer. Henry would be, if I had to pick a world 11, I'm not doing it now. I've put it on Twitter before. Henry would be very close to it. He'd probably be on the bench, I'd say. He'd be very close to it. Kane would be nowhere near that. That's the honest reality. So in terms of technical qualities of player, I mean, you can make a strong case for Henry being the best ever Premier League player. And, you know, when Kane's finished, if he's taking Shearer's record, etc., then Kane would come into that question just on goals alone. But Henry was sensational. Heavy Finger 7. Today marks 26 years from Ayrton Senna's fatal accident. You involved in any way with Formula One? I'm pretty sure I've watched a film about Senna, actually. I don't know why I watched that because I'm not particularly into Formula One, but I think if I remember correctly, it's a really good watch, that, actually. No, not massively into F1, I'll be honest. You watch the fucking first corner and then come back an hour later. That's it, isn't it? FPL Badge, did you know Toby came close to signing for Norwich but couldn't agree personal terms? What was that, when he was about 12, Mark? Donald Boyle, listening to the 606 podcast yesterday, was a suggestion that the top 8 championship teams have a playoff to decide who gets promoted should the season be cancelled. That's a nonsense. We covered that on Monday as well. So what happens if the teams currently 7th and 8th win that? Then what for Leeds, West Brom, etc.? Why would Leeds or West Brom agree to want to go into that? It's ridiculous. It's a scandalous idea. Cole Norbury, I remember Alderweireld was a huge FPL asset in 15-16, scored a few that season, but not many since. Yes, he did score a few that season. We also had a number of clean sheets that season as well. FPL Andy, what's your favourite sport other than football? Soccer. There isn't one. In my younger years, I played quite a bit of snooker and pool and that. So for participation would be those. It's not. I'm not. You know, if the rugby team's playing in the World Cup or in the cricket and they're in the World Cup, yeah, I'm interested. But if there was, if Wimbledon's on, I'm half interested. But if there was no other sport, I'd live without it. As long as we've got football, right? I'm just not that into anything else, to be honest, Andy. We will finish on this from Imad Carrot. Hi, James. Thanks for lighting up our days during these rough times. What is your take on the whole Kane story roaming around? Will Spurs manage to hold on to him? It's not up to Spurs, Imad. It's up to Harry Kane. Harry Kane wants to leave Spurs, he'll leave Spurs. If Harry Kane wants to stay at Spurs, Spurs will never sell him unless Kane wants to go, or unless a bid came in that was ridiculous. And when I say ridiculous, I'm talking in excess of £200 million. Nobody's going to be making that sort of offer at the moment. I'm not saying that's the money that he would go for. If Kane made a move to want to leave, then obviously it would be less. But no, Spurs would absolutely not sell. It would be up to Kane. Kane would want to leave. I don't believe Kane has the desire to leave at the moment. Should Spurs still be in such a shit state under Mourinho in 12 months, then I think there's every chance that Kane would want to leave. Colin Atkinson, finally. So, did you ever see Darren Bent strike a ball cleanly? Sunderland had a very decent strike force at one point with Bent, Gian, and Welbeck. No, I didn't, Colin, but rumour has it that Sandra certainly did a few times. Thanks for joining in on the chat, guys. Sandra, Harry Redknapp's wife, in case you missed that one. Thanks very much for joining the chat, guys. Thoroughly enjoyable. I'll be back 2:30 tomorrow afternoon for Chatman FPL game week 10. Stay safe, everybody. Enjoy your weekends. Be nice to everybody. And for the benefit of the audio, cue music, man child.